What's good? What's good? What's good? Let me back this up a bit. What is good? Alright. I just ended up probably posting another video today. Let's see if probably up. Yeah, I mean, it's at 10 o'clock, so I'll upload this before the day ends. But yeah, another one. Yeah, this one I'm just gonna break it down and talk about the bond market here. Like, there's gonna be a lot of videos coming up because there's so much crap that just over leveraged stuff that I can't even believe happened before we were even born. To the fact, like, so what is Generation Z supposed to do? Like, jump into this economy of trash? But yeah, like, I'd rather just break it down first and then just build new stuff. But yeah, alright, so the bond market is a financial market where participants can issue new debt or buy or sell debt securities, usually in the form of bonds. So the United States accounts for about 40% of this market as of today. So what is, and I live in the United States, if you didn't know that, watching the videos. So what is a bond? A bond is essentially asking for money now with a promise to pay that money back later plus interest. And this is probably familiar to you. The interest payment is what makes holding that bond valuable for the holder. And the holder is the person who buys the bond, or in other words, the person who gives the issuer of the bond money now in exchange for the interest payments later. So you might be asking, doesn't this kind of sound like a loan? And it kind of does, but it's not quite a loan. So with a loan, the person expecting, so with the loan, the issuer of the loan, which is might be a bank or something like that, is the person who's expecting to be paid back. So the person who gives out a loan expects to be paid back. Also, there is no guarantee that the person who gives out the loan will be paid back by the receiver of the loan. By contrast, with a bond, the issuer of the bond, meaning the person giving out the bond, is not the person expecting to be paid back. The issuer of the bond is the person that's doing the paying back. So a person who issues a bond pays back the money received plus interest from the bond that they issued, if that makes sense. And then also there is a guarantee that the receiver of the bond will be paid back, unlike a loan where the issuer of the loan, there's no guarantee that that person will be paid back. So it's kind of like flipped, if that makes sense. And you can like rewind that if you, like, I kind of stumbled a little bit, so you can rewind it if you didn't quite get it, but it's kind of flipped. So a bond is considered a security. And why is that? It's considered a security because there's a guarantee that the buyer of the bond will be paid back plus interest. So if an issuer of a bond cannot make the payments on time, so the way you pay a bond back, you don't do it all at once. You do it like in increments, kind of like a loan. If you take out a loan, usually you pay that back like over time. And then with a bond, it's the same. You pay the receiver of the bond with interest payment. So it's not even the principal. A lot of times you're paying back interest rather than the principal. But eventually you'll pay back all of the interest and the principal. But if you can't make these payments on time, then that issuer is considered to have defaulted. Yeah. So what type of bonds make up the bond market of today? So there are 5 main types that I gleaned from the internet. So there are corporate bonds, there are government bonds, which are kind of important. Like that's kind of how I figured out about the bonds in general, was looking at government bonds. There are municipal bonds, there are mortgage-backed asset, and this is one category, mortgage-backed asset-backed bonds and CDOs. And that, if you look at the 2008 financial crisis, you'll know all about those. I'll probably have a video on those specifically. And there are funding bonds. I don't really know too much about municipal bonds and funding bonds. Those I'll figure out more about when I do videos about them. But yeah, corporate bonds, government bonds, and like mortgage-backed securities, I know a little bit about those because I've done research on those ones. So who participates in the bond market? So you have institutional investors, i.e. professional investors, like people that go to school for it and stuff like that. There are governments, which I starred because the US government is like the biggest participant in the bond market, I believe. There are traders, so people that just like trade these bonds for these bonds, and like hopefully make money off of the difference basically. And then there are individuals like you and me. So like these are like your what do they call, amateur investors basically, probably. Yeah. So bonds tend to be denominated, like so given out in sums of $1,000 to $10,000 for a single bond, and usually no more than $100,000. So like they're relatively small sums of money. I mean, that's not a small sum of money to me, but they're relatively small sums of money in the context of like money in general. So if you sum all the bonds issued and in the process of being paid back currently, then you would get trillions of dollars. So most of these are from the US government. Like I said, the US government's the biggest participant in this market. So we'll talk about the implications of this in the next video. So reserve currency status, you've probably heard about that. Like taxing, what that means for taxing people, and saddling future generations with debt, if you've heard that before. I didn't really understand what that meant until like kind of doing this research. Yeah, and that's basically it for this video. In another video, we can discuss some of the history of bond markets. It's very interesting and it's a long history. In another video, we can go into the types of bonds. Yeah, like there's a lot of things to discuss when you talk about bonds, but yeah, that's it. All right, I'm out. Peace out. Yeah, there's an importance to building things that is understated, or else you end up moving money around too much. And yeah, that's what I gotta say for that. Healthcare network. I don't know if I'm just a naive kid learning about this stuff, but yeah. Healthcare network, that's all I know. Peace out.